Hello, everybody. This is Matthew Brand. Welcome to the Madden Creed podcast. And today I am talking about the Jim Matthews murder and what's not really being said from the media. And the reason I'm doing this is because, one, as a self defense instructor, I kind of want to give the idea of what to really look out for, right? You want to make educated guesses in the defense of your life and your family and make educated decisions on how to keep them safe. Forward, I also want to kind of explain why they aren't saying it, right? Because, yes, the lack of information, like the things they're beating around the bush about, leads to more, like perhaps even worse speculation than anything. But also, it is understandable why they are leaving certain things out because one of the victims could potentially garner hate, right, from the small amount of information that could go out more publicly. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So, what happened was there was a nighttime, I believe, AM radio, perhaps FM radio, news anchor named who went by the name Jim Matthews. I do not believe that is his real name, but he goes by the name Jim Matthews. I believe his first name is actually Jim. And he and his girlfriend and his two children were assaulted by this man who did not live in a household but was a frequent visitor of the household. And that was pretty much all the information we were given, besides the fact that this man had a criminal history and he was found OD'd in the basement after inflicting stabbing and blunt force trauma wounds from a hammer. I'm not sure about the stabbing. I will say this, a lot of the media, and this is more political than the reasons that I'm sure they're beating around the bush about the details, but in all honesty, I believe that the media does not want to relay stabbings. I noticed that a lot. Like the media kind of avoids talking about stabbings as much as possible for some whatever reason. My, you know, taking this from a person who is pro gun, right? So my pro gun perspective, and this is just conspiracy, and but hey, every conspiracy isn't wrong. But I do believe that telling people that there are stabbings and letting people know how frequent stabbings occur makes people want to purchase a firearm because in a lot of people's heads, not all the time, but a lot of people's heads, gun beats knife. And, if people hear gun, they hear, ooh, scary. But if they hear knife, they hear, maybe I should get a shotgun or something along those lines. So that's my thought. But in this case, it seems as though the man came over at 3 o'clock in the morning, and Jim Matthews, the father and man of the household, came home at about 6 o'clock in the morning, right? Again, this is one of those little clues that you can draw, again, conclusions from, but that's, again, we weren't giving the exact story, and I believe there are reasons for that. Now, what is left out of here, right? So remember, the details that we are commonly given about this is that the man came over at 3 o'clock in the morning. Jim Matthews came home at about 6 o'clock in the morning. He has two kids and a girlfriend who is the mother of one of the younger child, the daughter, who were in the home. At some point, the man bound the mother and daughter, but she, again, her and her daughter escaped. The father, Jim Matthews, and his son, who was not hers, were left behind essentially to die. Now, I'm not saying she didn't get help, but the boy was bound and beat near death with a hammer, if not to death. I mean, he is in critical but stable condition, but who knows how much damage he incurred, and then the father is dead. So regardless, this boy is left without his father. I don't know about the mother of the boy, what the situations with that is, but he is left without his father. Both kids are left without their father, but this woman grabbed her daughter and escaped. Now, that was not without injury. Now, that is the information that we are commonly given, along with the fact that he was in the basement or something, OD'd, and they brought him back with Narcan. Now, what is not being said is that both the assailant and the girlfriend knew each other from. Now, this is, again, I'm picking this up from stories, so I'm it's not a first-hand account, but from other news reports that aren't being as published. The man, who was black, and the rest of this family's white, but the assailant was black. Not that I'm saying that race. I'm not doing a race thing. I'm just giving a very clear, like, painting to differentiate. He's not part of that family, right? But the man who is coming over and visiting, I think they said 4 times a week, usually comes over while the father of the household, I really want to say husband because it's kind of that dynamic, but while the father of the household is asleep, and he comes over about 4 times a week. But this time he came over in the middle of the night. Father comes home at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if this is when the violence happens, but this man is a frequent visitor. The man and the woman know each other from the assailant and the woman knows each other from Narcotics Anonymous, some type of church sobriety group or something. So again, he also OD'd there, which means if he didn't have stuff on him, he had it in the system. It looks like drugs were at least an influence on the whole situation. Now, I'm not going to speculate, but when you have a man who comes over while the husband sleeps, that's not something most people would be cool with in their household, right? Also, when you have a man come over and him and the wife both appear to be, if not drug addicts, recovering drug addicts, or some combination of the two, this also looks like, that has something to do with things. Now, other than that, you can only draw educated guesses from there. But I believe the reason why they wouldn't want to say this is because I'm not saying it's anybody's fault but the murderers, right? But who would that garner some animosity towards, right? It seems like there's another person in the situation, at least one other person in the situation, that it would garner animosity towards and have people drawing conclusions towards that you wouldn't want to do as a police station that could cause liability, right? You will be looked at as fault for putting that out there, especially when you don't know all the context. That really, really makes you look bad, especially when a trial may happen later. You don't want to, muddy all the waters. Now, from a personal standpoint and a self-defense standpoint, my thoughts would be careful who you let in your house. Now, I know a lot of people have become very racist over this, right? I see a lot of racism over there. I'm not going in that direction, obviously. Now you could say, oh, it's because you're black. Yeah, sure. Why not? But the point is, I don't believe that that's the case. Plenty of people get along just fine and this never happens. But obviously, there are way more red flags going on than this. And 2, not for nothing, I mean, it's horrible towards a woman who, to say this, towards a woman who, lost so much. But you also kind of have to be careful who you date. And regardless of whether or not that is the situation in this case, we hear this all the time. A lot of times you date a man or a woman. Usually it's a woman who has some type of ex or extramarital affair that you just get absolutely wrapped up in, right? It could even not even be an extramarital affair. It could be like she doesn't like you anymore and she wants to leave you. And if you've gotten old enough and you dated enough, right, even a decent amount, you've had it happen to you, right? Where you were in a relationship with a woman, everything was great, everything was wonderful, and when you guys broke up, somehow you turned into this mythological monster of a human to excuse why she was leaving in the first place, right? Because last thing a lot of women want to look like, and I'm not saying this is just women. Don't get me wrong whatsoever. I'm not saying this is a lot of women, but that's the typical scenario when this does happen, right? This is the more common of the scenarios. Is a woman leaves a man and she has some, not all women when they leave, but when this scenario does happen, it's very often a woman leaves a man and there she comes up, he's a monster now. She comes up with all these crazy accusations, all these oh we he was so mean to me, and he did this and he did that, and he cheated, and he, they come up with these stories because if you look like the kind of person who's going to leave and a woman wants somebody who's going to stay, you don't want to go advertising like I got bored and left. It's not a good look for you, right? Not all women do this. Some women are honest, and some women don't even have to have anything to excuse because they may have been only with a guy, it didn't work out, they went their separate ways. Sometimes that's just the case. But sometimes a woman sees a guy, she thinks it's an opportunity, and I've seen this happen over and over and over and over and over again, where this girl, she wants to go to a party, right? And she knows this guy is going to be there, that she kind of wants to mac on her, but it would look bad because she has a boyfriend or a fiance or a husband. So all of a sudden, this guy she was completely happy with days earlier is now just tragic, a tragic human who takes all his aggression out on her. He's controlling and he's needy and he's all kinds of stuff, right? And I hear this, and then they'll go to the party, and then the guy messes around. They mess around, and then he doesn't want to be in a relationship with her. So then he leaves, and now that guy is the monster. He's the assailant, right? This guy she wanted to mess around with, hoping that it will lead somewhere, doesn't go anywhere, and now he's the bastard. So you have two different people getting stories about how that guy's the bastard. Oh no, I heard you're like, you get what I'm saying? So until this woman gets in a circle of associates who all know her game, a lot of people take her word or accountability at face value. Like that, all right, maybe. But when you get a little older, you kind of start reading women. And women, I will say this: women, especially good, decent, moral women, are way better at this than men are. Way better at this, especially when they're younger. Like they see that a mile away. They're like, something ain't right with her crap. It's not, because women are smart. like some people women don't know it. Women are smart and they know that crap. It's just every woman like that. Every woman isn't shady, right? Every woman isn't like that, but there are a lot of women who fit into that category, right? They're usually ones who really want to be married. They really want to be settled down, so they kind of settle for somebody that kind of early. And it's not that they, bit the bullet and dated somebody who was way beneath their capability of getting. They just don't want to pay for what they want, right? So you may get a guy. I see a lot of this kind of just like women. The guy's not bad. He's just kind of I don't know how to explain it. He's not really all over the place, right? Some girls, like I know some girls like they like to go out and party, and he doesn't like to party, and that's kind of the conflict in the case. But she's pretending that she doesn't like to party too, because that's the kind of guy who will usually want to stay and get married. If a guy likes to party and go out, meet new, broads every night, then you get what I'm saying? Like, that's not the settling. He's not ready, right? So she thinks she has opportunity with this person, and she thinks she can make him ready because he's interested in, for lack of a better term, banging her. And that is, that doesn't translate to relationship, man, relationship don't translate. So they come back, they get mad, and now he's the bad guy, right? So because of course again she split up with the dude or cheated on her main man. So how did she come back and excuse that? Oh well, this other person, he took advantage of her, right? He are, you get the idea. Or he, he was mean and he assaulted her, whatever different, things they come up with. But last thing they're going to do is, oh, he promised me, he wanted a relationship, and even though I was in a relationship with you, I just, they're not going to be honest about it, because if all the guys and women find out that they're that kind of person, nobody would want to date them. You just stay far away, as you should. I mean, who wants to date that kind of? But a lot of the times, like I said, this is what women want. They want to live a life, and they're, I don't want to say they're living a lie, but this is what happens. So you have to be careful of that kind of woman. And I'm not saying this is what happened in this case with Jim Matthews. I'm not. But this is what leads to this scenario sometimes. I think the situation, if I was to speculate, more perhaps, and I may say this, it could be anything, right? It could be anything, but more perhaps revolved around whatever relationship this woman and this guy had. That's what led to it. It may not have been romantic, even, is what I'm trying to say. It may not have even been a romantic relationship if you take all the context clues, right? So regardless, right? They made it seem like, oh, he was down and out, and Jim Matthews was giving him a chance. No one knows that. No one knows that. It could, maybe he was. You just don't know. Maybe he's just really, open and trusting and doesn't care much, or he's just kind of living his life. Who knows what the situation was. But you have to be careful of that. And these are the situations you can find yourself in. This is one of those situations where you should prepare if, you're going to be out in the dating world or whatever, that you may run across a woman like this and they may pull the wool over your eyes. Be careful. It may lead back to you. Everybody, if you dated enough, has seen a crazy woman. That's just what it is. And they always, again, because they're not going to tell you they're crazy. Some do, but a lot of them don't tell you they're crazy. You find out later when it's too late. Be prepared. And the same with the woman. Like if this woman was in a relationship with this assailant, right? I'm not saying she was, but this does happen, right? Be careful who you date. I see so many women date guys and they're attracted to the the traits that kind of person, that an assailant type of person has. Like, oh, he's more aggressive, he's more manly, but he's changed. He's changing his life around. He may have had some of this and did some of that, but he's different now, and that's okay. But where are you getting this from? Are you doing this because you want to date him and you're making excuses for that behavior? Or did you really see a change? And if any regular person met them, they wouldn't even pick up that he used to be like that, right? What are you really seeing? Because a lot of times they're attracted to that, to those traits. But you want to have your cake and eat it too, right? So you're ignoring the other crap. I think we all knew a guy. I'm not even going to say his name. I don't want to say the name of people who commit these atrocities. But we all knew a guy, me and my friends, and one of my friends dated, and luckily she wasn't dating him anymore. But he got into it with a woman. She had him arrested, and as soon as he got out on bond, he came back and dealt with her permanently. And this happens a lot. And a lot of people don't realize this. It's like when you can probably a lot of the times escape without causing a lot of problems and conflict and animosity to the point where it goes that far. But when you play this revenge game with someone who you know isn't stable, that can lead to that. I'm not saying not to contact authorities, right? I'm not saying not to do that. But be mentally smart about, the decisions you're going to make. Be tactical about the decisions you're going to make. You know, some people like to um, cause problems, to hurt someone, to do certain things to people, and they think well, because they're not supposed to do anything about it, then nothing's going to happen. That's the no gun sign logic. It doesn't work in real life, right? If someone's really going to rob a store, they're not going to walk up to the door and see the no gun sign and be like, dag nabbit, they got me again, right? They don't care. It doesn't matter. It, if anything, it discourages people who would be able to do something from even wanting to go in that place to begin with, right? Just like that, what was it, a mall shooting where, this guy stopped a mass mall shooter, but he wasn't supposed to be carrying them all in the first place. You're, you, it's okay. Neither one of them cared about the sign that said "Don't carry a firearm inside." Why? Because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't electrocute you if you walk in the door, right? It's just a sign. You don't feel any safer if you walk in without it. Like, why would you feel like, oh man, this is a this is a no firearm zone? Oh great, I get to leave my gun in the car and come in a place where I know is safe. Two, I think even Chris Rock said this was like, don't go into clubs that don't allow weapons. You may be safe inside, right, where they have guards checking you and frisking you, but there's a bunch of people outside. I'm not even sure he said the word people, but you get my point. There are a bunch of people outside who have guns and know you ain't got one. That's what happened in the Ohio shooting. I don't remember what where the name of the city was, but there was a Ohio mass shooting that happened where this guy, I think he killed his own sister, and her boyfriend, and a bunch of other random people in the club area because it was a club area. And it's not that you can't carry in Ohio. It's not like California, or it's not like Texas, where they have large communities of people who would be otherwise barred from carrying. What I mean by that is immigrants. Like when you have immigrants who come over, and I'm not just saying like legal or illegal. I'm just saying like immigrants. They come over. People may even be visiting. It's a high population area for people who aren't from America. They aren't armed, and that's where a lot of these shootings in Texas happen. So you go to these areas where there aren't very many armed people, and a lot that you can do a lot of devastation. And there's a lot of people outside. No, you ain't got one. Now, again, club areas are different from things like stores and malls and stuff, because club areas actually have people who check to see if you're armed, right? Or you're drinking and you're committing a behavior where you wouldn't be allowed to be armed anyway, right? If you go out and you stop at, I don't know if they have like weed lounges, but a weed lounge or a drinking lounge or whatever, and you're leaving and you're intoxicated, you're not supposed to be carrying. So you're darned if do darned if you don't. So these people become targets. This happens. So you can't sit there and think, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and he's going to pay, right? Being a Karen can get you hurt. Now, I'm not saying that, reporting your assailant is going to get you in trouble, but think about the ramifications of what you're about to do. This is why a lot of people don't report when they get assaulted by someone that they know, because the person knows where they stay, they know where they go, they know where they live, they know where they spend their day at. A lot of times you have to debate whether it's worth it, right? And what's really the danger? Why was he threatening in the first place? Is he or she legitimately angry, right? Do you have a woman who she came home, found out you were cheating, found another woman in her bed, and she got mad and started throwing crap around the house? That's still a domestic assault. But, and I'm not saying it's okay to do that, but at the same thing, point is realistic behavior. And that's what we're talking about. Is it realistic? Or are you just dealing with an insano person and they need to be like kept away from people because they can't be around people? Again, that doesn't mean that what they're doing is okay, but you do realize that, like, hey, I may need to get away for a while until they deal with this person. Like, your life is in danger. Get away. So don't just, like, do something and go la 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 in your face, I got you. Like, you're causing even more animosity and you think, oh, it's okay. I had a broad come up to me today. I was checking. I was going through, what, like, you're driving, right? And this is a place where, people stop and get out, and that little area where people stop and get out. And I got mad that I parked and got out, and I looked at something, and they're like, you could have gotten a parking space. There's probably now I got to leave my car running with my baby in the car. And I'm like, no, not really. You could take your keys out the car, you could shut the car off, you could park yourself, you can move around. There's about 5 options you have besides coming up and confronting me, because again, you never know if that person is that you're confronting is crazy. You just don't. Obviously, whatever happened with Jim Matthews, they didn't know this person as well as they thought they did, or maybe whatever they were getting from him they thought was worth it. I mean, I don't want to say they, whatever the woman may have been getting from him, they thought it was worth it, or whatever happened, right? I don't know. Again, you can't speculate, but obviously, if they thought that that is what it would have led to, they probably wouldn't have let him in the house unless this was a huge conspiracy. And we're going to find out later, like, someone did this intentionally. But you don't want to let that person in the house where you stay. I heard somebody. Now, I never saw this in any of the news reports, but somebody said he lived across the street. I haven't heard that in any of the news reports I've heard. And this is where you have to be careful of hearsay. Even reading the news reports of hearsay, because everything you read in every news report isn't true. A lot of the times the news gets things wrong, and they also speculate because they want to be the fastest person to have something out there. They want to be the only person to have something out there. So that's why I'm being very clear. I read these in several news reports from actual news stations, but that does not mean anything. Just because they're a big news station doesn't mean they're accurate. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you listening to my rant. If you got anything out of this, if it was good for you, like, subscribe. You know the deal. Anyway, thanks. Peace.